from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Checking on crop conditions and fresh numbers from USDA.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. USDA says less than 50% of Indiana's corn crop is rated good to excellent. We'll take you to Kokomo, Indiana, where farmers have replanted several times.
The Indiana crops are as ragged as I've seen them in my lifetime.
In agribusiness, wheat in the northern plains.
And I think we're going to end up with actual rationing prices. We could be headed towards $8 or more.
The Dairy Report looks at global dairy production and peeling back the layers of sweet onion production in Texas.
Agday, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. As northern tier states enter a new week of drought, the Ag Department gives the go-ahead for producers in those states to graze livestock on land earmarked for the Conservation Reserve Program. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue authorizing emergency grazing on CRP lands in Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. All or parts of these states are experiencing severe or extreme drought conditions. Those states entered the D3 category last week, which triggers the emergency grazing policy. Secretary Perdue says, quoting here, without alternative forage options like grazing CRP lands, livestock producers are faced with the economically devastating potential of herd liquidation. And as we have shown you here on Ag Day, some producers have already taken that step. USDA says emergency grazing can begin immediately and runs through September 30th unless conditions improve. Looking at pasture conditions, the crop progress report shows 53% of South Dakota pasture and 61% of North Dakota pasture in poor to very poor condition. In South Dakota, spring wheat condition rating has really plummeted, with 62% now poor to very poor. Up in North Dakota, 27% is poor to very poor, a drop of another 3 points. And in Montana, 36% poor to very poor. Overall, in the top 6 states, only 40% of spring wheat is in good to excellent condition. USDA says about half of the Indiana corn crop is rated good to excellent, and soybeans are not in much better shape. We visited the central part of the state to see the crop for ourselves. Here's Betsy Gibbon.
Just drive around Kokomo, Indiana, and you can see the crops are variable.
Well, one word could describe this growing season thus far, and that's challenge.
An array of crop conditions within a matter of miles, from corn ankle tall to others chest high. Soybeans flowering, and some replanted many times.
Farmers say the planting date varied from April to June, and you can see it in the fields.
The Indiana crops are as ragged as I've seen them in my lifetime.
Mike Silver is the senior grain merchandiser for Kokomo Grain in Indiana. He says the temperatures turned cold and the area had extreme rainfall in April and May, well over the area's average.
In this area, I would estimate that 35 to 40% of the corn crop was replanted at least once. And like I say, some of it twice and 3 times.
Silver saying he's traveling extensively across the state, visiting different locations. He believes it's not just his location that's struggling.
If anything, USDA might have us rated a little higher than we actually are.
You didn't have to travel very far to see that kind of variation.
Howard Eller farms in western Howard County, Indiana. He says the area saw different amounts of rainfall.
Last field of corn I planted, which was the last Wednesday in April, it rained about 4 inches over the next 24 to 36 hours. And I know of a guy that lives south of me that got 8 inches of rain. So he had to replant the whole field. I didn't.
Fortunately, he planted early, which may have saved some top end. Running 2 planters helped as well.
Each field has some problems, probably ranging anywhere from 5 to 15% of the field is not going to produce.
He says the crop needs some growing degree days and moderate rainfall to finish out.
The soybeans, I think, those really have the potential to be probably pretty good, depending on how the fall comes with the later planted beans.
Yet this year's struggle is much more than crop condition. Silver says farmers are feeling the financial pressure as well.
I also am in the crop insurance business, and the replant claims this year are the highest that I've ever seen. And typically we do not get replants in this area. If we do, they're very small acreages.
Knowing there's still time to produce a crop, but wishing the worst is over during this growing season while praying for a late frost.
again, it's going to be a challenging summer as we advance.
Reporting in Kokomo, Indiana, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
Thanks, Betsy. The area has received rainfall in amounts ranging from a half inch to nearly 4 inches in a 20-mile radius around Kokomo. Just after our visit, Silver said he anticipated more soybean acres in that area this year, and he expects even more soybeans since some farmers switched last minute or replanted cornfields due to that wet spring. Looking at corn, the condition rating is unchanged from last week, 67%, now good to excellent. The Mid-South leading the way. Kentucky and Tennessee are both in the mid to upper 80s. And we got our first silking report of the season. It's 4%. The average is 5%. Turning to soybeans, it's down a single point from last week, 66% rated good to excellent. 9% of the crop is starting to bloom. That's 2 points ahead of the average pace. And cotton, seeing a drop in condition as well, now 57% rated as good to excellent. Cotton has been through the ringer in the southern plains and southeast. Mike Hoffman has an update in this morning's crop comments. Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Cotton has seen its share of roller coaster weather in the United States. This photo is from Rutledge, Tennessee. Here's a drowned out field because the area received just too much rain. There's a possibility for more rain in the forecast for the upcoming weekend as well. It's a completely different situation west of Lubbock, Texas. A viewer sending us a picture of what he says is a dead cotton field in the Lone Star State. The cotton saw damage because of hot, dry conditions. And taking a look at the weather map, you can see a couple of systems affecting us with some scattered moisture across parts of the country. But boy, a lot of the Corn Belt staying dry today. We'll talk more about your forecast coming up. First, here are some hometown temps.
This is Machinery Pete, inviting you to check out my new website, machinerypete.com. Offering farmers tens of thousands of used equipment listings to search, let Machinery Pete help you find and value your next piece of used equipment.
When we come back, we'll look at the wheat market and how drought and dry weather could impact those markets even during harvest. And later, we peel back some of the layers of onion production in the Lone Star State.
Agday is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.
Agribusiness, plenty of green in various markets Monday. Let's get details from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
In general, the market really trying to absorb last week's just collapse, especially in the corn market. Traders act like the corn crop is made. They are looking for an increase in crops rated good to excellent. It's really way too early. A lot of traders typically think that the crop is pollinated in late June and early July and that we've got just perfect weather for this year. But so much of the crop is stunted and slow growth and very small, and you've got a lot of regions of the country where it could go either way. There's a ridge pattern that might develop into late next week or the week following. A lot of this corn was not going to be pollinated till the 3rd and 4th week of July. The world numbers could contract significantly if we have a little bit of an issue here in the U.S. The livestock market's on a very strong rally today. That pork cutout value hitting up to the highest level since October 2014. The market looking at the largest increase on record from the second quarter to the third quarter for beef production. Also a very large increase in pork production from the second quarter to the third quarter. So we got a lot of seasonal factors against the market. The break into the summer could be even greater than seasonal because of the surge in production. So exports are going to be very key for this market.
Here at the Agribusiness Desk, I have Elaine Cobb, author of Mastering the Grain Markets. Elaine, let's talk about the wheat market because partly it's been exciting because we've had a little bit of an uptick in the wheat market, but can it hold? Where does it go from here?
Absolutely. I think it could keep going. This rally that's building in the Minneapolis contract certainly could. Now, this is late June, and ordinarily we'd be talking about Kansas City hard red winter wheat. That's usually what's going on.
We're in the heart of harvest right now.
Yeah, and it's very variable and probably lots of things to talk about there, but it's really been overshadowed by the drought that's going on in the northern plains, South Dakota, North Dakota, that is a legitimate loss of acreage. outright, and definitely a loss of yield anywhere that the fields are actually going to be harvested. So that's a real thing, and I think we're going to end up with actual rationing prices. We could be headed towards $8 or more to really ration down the demand for this very small quantity of hard red spring wheat that will be harvested this year.
Yeah, and you're in South Dakota and you're seeing a lot of this firsthand where this wheat crop is just not there and they're zeroing out acres already, right?
Exactly.
And so is there any going to make? And I guess the people that do get a crop are going to be the ones that are holding the cards here.
Yeah, so there's so South Dakota, if you look even at the drought map, you know, there's areas that are very serious drought, and then pretty soon there's a kind of a line where you do start to get some moisture, and it tends to be the line where you stop growing spring wheat also, but I think there will be fields, there will be individual fields where someone's going to do well.
Yeah. If we have gotten a little bit of rain there over the last week or so. If we get a little more, is it too late? Too little, too late?
It is too late for the spring wheat crop, yes. Because it was drought stressed, it prematurely headed, and basically it's done. The same story with the hay crop too, is, you know, if we didn't get that rain in May, the tonnage is just kind of gone at this point.
Yeah, so as we head into the rest of the wheat crop, Kansas City wheat, as they're going through harvest here, can the Minnesota issue pull any of those markets up?
Yes, it can, especially in the cash market when you start looking for substitute protein. The millers will start looking for high protein winter wheat to substitute in. But I don't know that it necessarily is going to be reflected on the futures markets because it's going to be more of a cash protein spread.
Well, it's pretty dynamic. We appreciate the perspective. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For more marketing advice, you can find Elaine's book, Mastering the Grain Markets, How Profits Are Really Made, on Amazon and elsewhere. Get the roots your crops need by getting Radiate first. Visit lovelandproducts.com/radiate. See your CPS dealer today.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Here, meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, you say there may be some chances for those folks in the northern plains waiting on rain.
Yeah, sometimes you get these complexes of nighttime thunderstorms that develop ahead of a warm front. And this one looks like a situation that we could have a couple of nights of that, so we'll have to watch it over the next couple of days. Of course, it's probably not looking like this morning is going to see too much ahead of that warm front, but along the frontal systems, you'll see some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Same thing with the stationary front down across Florida into southern and southeastern portions of Texas. You can see by later today, this first cold front moving off the mid-Atlantic seaboard. Just spotty activity then with that area of low pressure coming into the Black Hills of South Dakota. Heading through the nighttime hours tonight, there's one of those blossoming areas of thunderstorms. Sometimes we just call those nocturnal thunderstorms because they develop at night ahead of a warm front. And that can put down some pretty good rains. It can cause some severe weather as well, but it's generally a big rainmaker for the areas that do end up getting it. Then those tend to die off during the day as the day goes on, but you'll see scattered activity in the afternoon ahead of that system as well. Now that'll probably do it again as it comes eastward into parts of the Great Lakes as we head into, looks like Thursday morning the way it looks right now. Now let's take a look at precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours. Most of it has been in the Southland from southern Texas, Gulf Coast area of Louisiana into parts of Florida. Otherwise, it's just hit and miss, mostly miss up across the northern portions of the country, as you can see. But adding in the next 36 hours, what we are going to see, and we're going to add it all at once here instead of gradually bringing it on, but you can see our computer model showing 2 to 3 inches of rain with that complex for parts of Iowa, northern Missouri, into western Illinois. And we can just continue to add some more along that stationary front farther through the south. There are the temperatures this afternoon. It's going to start to warm up again for the southwestern plains with a few 90s showing up. Of course, triple digits still showing up in the desert southwest. Not as hot as it was, but nonetheless, it's typical heat for this time of the year. Highs only in the 60s for the eastern Great Lakes into New England, so still on the cool side there. Lows tonight, 50s and 60s for a good chunk of the Ohio Valley. On up into the Great Lakes in the northeast, still 70s along the Gulf Coast into the southwestern plains. And highs tomorrow afternoon, once again 80s and 90s for the southern 2/3 of the plains, but cooler, more pleasant weather farther to the north and east. All because of that jet stream showing the trough over the Great Lakes into the northeast. That kind of goes away, so we do see things getting more typical for this time of the year, although that trough over the northern plains over the weekend will cool things down again. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, we'll head to Hobbs, New Mexico. Variably cloudy, a thunderstorm in some areas. High temperature around 90. Moorhead, Minnesota, partly sunny, breezy and comfortable. High of 80. And finally, Columbus, Georgia, a good deal of sunshine on the warm side, high around 90.
The Dairy Report is next, including a look at what's helping prop up prices, even as production increases. And later, we're off to the Lone Star State to meet a family growing prized sweet onions in Texas.
Agday, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
On the Dairy Report, despite rising global stocks, global dairy product prices continue to push higher from first quarter lows. Output is on the rise in major producing places like Europe, New Zealand, and the U.S. Even Ireland's milk production jumped 40% in March. Rising component prices are helping keep milk checks higher, plus exports of butterfat and cheese are also pushing demand, even as that production remains high. The milk sector in New Zealand showing signs of growth after several down years. According to agrimoney.com, milk production in New Zealand will rise in 2017-18 for the first time in 3 years. That outlook is based on projections from Fonterra Dairy Cooperative, which released its first forecast for the marketing year. Fonterra says volumes will remain below record highs due to lingering financial worries in the industry. The co-op expects production to be up 3.2% year over year. And speaking of production, the latest USDA report showing that dairy cow slaughter is up. In May, processing was 5.5% higher than a year ago. And so far for 2017, cow kill, well, it's up about 33,000 head from 2016. It's been hot in the Southwest. Arizona seeing consistent dry heat into triple digits last week. Temps climbing near 120 degrees. However, herd managers say cows continue to handle those temperatures quite well. Low humidity combined with shaded housing and evaporative cooling is keeping those cows comfortable. Farms with fans and misters can cut temps at least 40 degrees. And so far, milk production isn't declining. They say the challenge will come later in the summer when humidity and dew points increase. When we come back, the sun and heat growing Texas onions. We'll meet the legacy behind these famed fields next.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. See the hardest working tractors in ag at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
While East Texas and the Gulf states recover from the heavy rains of Tropical Storm Cindy, to the west, it's dry. And it's onion season. Ed Wolf and the Texas Farm Bureau report on the legendary sweet onion and the families that grow them.
Sweet Texas onions, from this field to your table. Jay Carnes' family has been growing the versatile vegetable for 3 generations, a legacy he's proud to continue.
It's a great place to raise a family and to be able to work with your father and his father, and hopefully my sons will have the same opportunity. It's a tradition we have here in Texas.
Jay's grandfather moved to Uvalde in the 1950s. This area of the Lone Star State is known as the Winter Garden. Farmers can grow all kinds of crops all year long. Jay raises everything from cauliflower to cabbage to cotton. But like his granddad, the root of his farm is the Texas onion.
If you're looking for a sweet Texas grown onion, you can find it in stores from starting in March all the way up to the 4th of July. It's got a very high water content, a high sugar content, and a low pyruvic acid content. So it's something people look for annually.
With the legendary 1015 Texas sweet onion, not as many tissues are needed. Low pyruvic acid means less tears. It's a much milder veggie. The sweet bulbs not only top a Texas hamburger, but many times are eaten raw, like an apple, a unique Texas taste.
The Texas onion harvest will go from early to mid-March all the way through June. As they start to dry down, then you'll come out here with the crew and you'll start clipping and harvesting. It's a long process from start to finish.
The same things that make the Texas onion a state favorite also make it harder to harvest. The onion's unique makeup means machine harvesting is out of the question. So Texas' #1 vegetable has to be picked the old-fashioned way.
They'll harvest in the white buckets that you see out here. They'll go into the bins, the yellow, green, gray bins. The bins are then picked up, loaded on a truck, and taken up to the shed.
At the shed, they will be sorted, graded, packed, and shipped out to grocery stores and restaurants all over the state and beyond. Onions from Jay's farm end up as far away as Puerto Rico and Canada, but most will be enjoyed in the Lone Star State, which is fitting. The 1015 sweet onion is the official vegetable of the state of Texas. Every onion is pulled from the ground with layers of pride. For Jay, it's not just an iconic crop, it's a family heritage, one he lives out every day.
When you think about Texas and you think about the Texas farmer, you think about the Texas rancher, it's based on family operations. And for it to survive the next century, that's the way it's got to be.
With the Texas Farm Bureau, Ed Wolf, Uvalde.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. For Betsy Gibbon and Mike Hoffman, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
Agday is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.